I do want to welcome you to the 42nd Annual Holocaust Remembrance Conference here in Lafayette. And this year, the theme for our conference is hidden. And whether that's like our speaker at lunch, who was hidden as a child, or whether it's history that's been covered up or forgotten, or whether it's people in literal hiding, this series of events this spring have all had something to do with the idea of hidden. And it's kind of appropriate too, because the Greater Lafayette Holocaust Remembrance Conference has been kind of hidden for the past couple of years. We have continued, but all of our programs have been on Zoom. So this year is the very first time since 2019 that we have had an in-person event, and we are just thrilled that we are able to do this and that it is what it is this evening. I do want to say something about this exhibit. It's kind of in a wonderful irony. The way we were alerted to this exhibit was through Rabbi Engel's daughter, Liba Engelfeit, who said, I've heard of this exhibit, you might be interested in it for the conference. And so I circulated it to the committee, and Devin Rodell, who unfortunately is ill and is unable to be here tonight, he's the new young archivist here at the library, and he just picked right up on that, and he has done all of the legwork on getting this exhibit here and assembled, and even was doing supervision from afar about the setup. But we owe a lot to Devin for his perseverance in getting this up and running. One thing you should know is that the exhibit is going to be at the library permanently. It will be on loan to any organization or public venue that has the space to put it up. It's free. The only stipulation is that the venue must be free and open to the public. So, but it is available. It'll be here for about 6 weeks, and then just contact the library if you're interested in having it in your workspace or other public area or church or synagogue or wherever.
So the library purchased it?
The library, the Holocaust Conference, and a grant from Indiana Humanities, which is an arm of the National Endowment for the Arts. So we're very proud of how this came about. And so, and again, this is an example of collaboration and why collaboration is so terribly important. So we're very grateful to the library for collaborating with us and helping us to get this accomplished, and especially to Devin for his hard work. Actually, the whole committee works pretty darn hard to make things happen. The other reason why I'm particularly grateful for this evening's in-person is because we have no better friends than the mayors of Lafayette and West Lafayette. Seriously, they have followed the tradition of Jim Reilly and Sonia Marjoram of opening the conference when it's been in person every year and signing a proclamation that names this coming week, starting yesterday, as Holocaust Remembrance Week for Greater Lafayette. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mayor Dennis first, and then Mayor Roswarski, and these proclamations are up here, and y'all know what to do.
Yeah. Just so you'll notice, that's the first time I've ever done that to Tony, and he actually followed me. No, he just looks at me like, just real quickly, I've lived here almost all my life. I moved here when I was 3 or 4 years old. And I went to Cumberland Elementary School, we were the first class that went from kindergarten through 6th grade. It used to be 6th grade at Cumberland Elementary School. And when I was in 2nd grade, I don't even know what age 2nd grade is, 6, 7, something like that, 8 maybe. A friend of mine, his name was Jeff Fields. And Jeff was Jewish. But again, when you're, say, 7, 8, that doesn't mean anything. Well, one day I went over to Jeff's house for lunch, and his father was home for lunch. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I had never seen a guy with a beard before, in person. I know, West Lafayette seems a bit out, but I never had. And so I was a little cheeser, you know, whatever age I was. And I was with Jeff, and his father was there. And I was looking up at him. And he's like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, I've never seen a guy with a beard. I don't know how I communicated that, but that were the words that I said. So be my mic stand for a second.
Yes, sir.
So he grabbed me by underneath the arms and picked me up and rubbed my face all over his beard. And he goes, now you have. But no, here in Greater Lafayette, I think that it was expressed relatively eloquently. We do everything we can to make sure that everybody, regardless of race, creed, color, is treated properly, is treated with respect, regardless of anything that they might make choices about or are born with. There is no reason for anybody to treat anybody differently. The other thing is that we advocate and support any activity that is going to bring positive attention to your organization, specifically if it's a faith-based organization, because for a community and a city that's growing like Greater Lafayette is, the understanding that we are a welcoming community is critical to that growth. There's a lot of businesses that have come here, specifically over the last decade or so. And one of the reasons that they cite is because of the diversity of this community and how accepting we are. And that ain't gonna change. At least as long, well, I'm not gonna be here much longer, but this guy's gonna be around until the rocks turn to salt, so. Anyway, so do you wanna say something, or you just wanna read the proclamation?
I'll just say something if you don't mind.
Well, I kinda mind.
Really, you did pretty good not going on forever. So
I know.
actually,
Usually he's got a good
little time
dog.
left. Yes, little time left. So.
There you go.
He knows I can't jump.
He can't jump.
Just quickly, I just want to, and Mayor Dennis said it so well, but I want to thank the Holocaust Remembrance Committee and all the people that made sure this continues. I will tell you, in my mind, we're at a critically important time again, and we continue to say that, where we need activities like this to bring people together, to get people to remember, to get people to try to be understanding and kind to each other and all those things. And I can tell you that when this started, I'm in my 20th year as mayor, I have learned something every year from participating that I didn't know about, and it never ceases to just move me. So even tonight, and not that I wasn't paying attention, because I was, but I was sitting there and I started reading the one there that says family with the two girls on it, and I sat there and I read through that, and I mean, it broke my heart just sitting there reading that. I mean, it's just like, how could that have happened, and why are we in such a condition we are now, and how we treat each other and the things that we do. And so I think this is a wonderful display, and doing things like this, I wish it wasn't still necessary, but it's probably more necessary now than ever. So thank you for all your hard work, and I'll turn it back over to Mayor Dennis to start the reading.
This is how we do this. Whoever's home turf it is gets to start. So I'll take it up to here, then you read him.
How much you want to read, please feel free.
Thank you, sir. Greater Lafayette Mayor's Proclamation, Week of Holocaust Remembrance, April 17th through 21, 2023. 78 years have passed since the ending of World War II, when 6 million Jews and millions of others in Europe were victims of Nazi brutality in Hitler's war against the Jews. 43 years have passed since President Ronald Reagan urged mayors across the cities of the United States to remember these horrific events. 43 years have passed since the mayors of Lafayette and West Lafayette turned to community religious leaders to create a commemorative program. 43 years have passed since Rabbi Gedaliah Engel, with the cooperation of the members of the University Religious Leaders Organization, assumed leadership of the Greater Lafayette Holocaust Remembrance Committee. On the occasion of the 42nd Annual Greater Lafayette Holocaust Remembrance Conference, Hidden.
We honor the memory of our conference founder, Rabbi Gedaliah Engel and Miss Marilyn Engel. May their memories be a blessing. We honor the victims and the survivors of the Holocaust. We honor the innocent lives lost in World War II. We honor the veterans in our community who fought in World War II. With the help of the Holocaust survivors, scholars, and community leaders, we continue to learn about the impact of the Holocaust upon the lives of the survivors, their children, and their grandchildren. We deplore the current rise of anti-Semitism and the hatred towards other groups and minorities. We hope that this conference will increase the awareness of the citizens of Lafayette and West Lafayette of the life-threatening situations in the United States and around the world, and motivate us all to speak out against prejudice, discrimination, injustice, and hate. We, the mayors of Lafayette and West Lafayette, Indiana, do hereby declare April 17th through the 21st, 2023 as Holocaust Remembrance Week for Greater Lafayette. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and, Sonia, did you bring a pen?
I did not. I did bring the seal.
Well, I forgot the seal. Generally together we do
Yeah,
this pretty
between,
well.
yeah, we can pass glasses or pins around or stuff, but
I almost signed your name. I'll get my seal on it tomorrow. Okay.
thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. We appreciate it. So one other thing that we want to do tonight is a very, an especially gratifying thing for me as a former educator. The Holocaust Conference gives an award every year to a teacher in Tippecanoe and contiguous counties to do the work of anti-discrimination, social justice, anti-violence, anti-war. In other words, to do the work of the Holocaust lessons, the lessons that we should have learned. And so it's my enormous pleasure tonight to award the 2023 Gedalia Engel Educator Award to my own colleague from McCutcheon High School, Abby Bymaster. Not have anything to do with the selection, but I tell you, I had tears when I found out who it was. Abby is going to be traveling this summer to Uganda. She's going to be working with local individuals and an NGO on sustainable agricultural practices and learning about the interface between prejudice, discrimination, hunger, conflict, and bringing all this back to her students and to projects we know that they will undertake.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, if you know Abby, those kids work.
Yes, very hard.
So, you want to say anything?
Sure, I guess perhaps the biggest thing, for me, the biggest tie-in is I started working with Sarah 12 years ago on a project called the World Food Prize. And at that time, I didn't understand the interconnections and the collaborative idea between economics and science and Holocaust and justice and peace and all of those crossroads. And so for me, this opportunity to go to a country that was so badly hurt by the Bush War in my lifetime, and even in my application I wrote, I didn't even remember this Bush War happening. I don't remember hearing about it. So for me to go to this country and now learn from them and see how food and food production has changed that, and how that food production can promote peace in every country will be just transformational, I know. So I can't wait to come back and tell you all that I've learned and show you all that my students are going to learn because of this. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Congratulations. Absolutely. The educator workshop this year, which we do with our partner, the Ackerman Center, will happen in the fall, so we will be calling on you to tell us about your summer travels, for sure. Now, before I turn this over to Eyal Barash to close the program, you may have heard me speaking with somebody a minute ago, and her name is Dr. Michelle Gutman. She's a professor at Purdue, and she has something rather remarkable to tell us.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. I just got here a few minutes before we started, and I just started walking, and I had to mention something to Sarah about the picture in the family And that's the Chesingari twins. And they were in a barrack in Auschwitz with Eva Kor, who was an Indiana survivor. And I had the totally great good fortune to go on the 2019 trip in the summer to Auschwitz. And we were actually in Auschwitz at Eva's barrack the day before she passed, July 3rd. We were there July 3rd and she passed on July 4th. So when I saw their picture, I thought, there is a Indiana connection and we must say something. So they live in Israel now, and there were very few unlimited survivors, but there is actually some, shall we say, ill will maybe, in terms of their reaction to Eva's sort of latest endeavor before she passed, which was, I think, in some ways misunderstood, but she really worked towards forgiveness, and they were very vocal opponents. But anyway, so we actually, in this Yad Vashem exhibit, have an Indiana connection, so just thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Now I'm going to pass the mic again to Eyal Barash, who is our treasurer.
Thank you, Sarah. Sure. So thank you all for attending, and it's a really an amazing exhibit. And if you could bear with me, the friendship one back there, I think it's Ruth and Maud, that struck a chord with me because my mother was born in Poland in the late 1920s. She was at a summer camp in 1941 in the Soviet-occupied part of Poland when the Germans invaded, and she was in summer camp with her best friend. And when they heard that the Soviets, when the Germans were coming, they said, we've got to get the kids back to their parents. But they went there in 2 or 3 buses, but there was only one bus that was available to them to take them back. So my mom and her friend, they were inseparable, and her friend got on the bus and said, Sonia, come on the bus. But they wouldn't let my mom on the bus because I said, there's no room, we're completely full. And the bus left, and as far as we know, everyone who got on that bus died at a concentration camp. And my mom and the other people, they then were evacuated to various orphanages. So they went to one orphanage, and as the Germans approached, they went to another orphanage. They kept on moving east and through the entire war. My mom rarely talked about these experiences until one day, another local member of the community, Joe Haber, who has since passed away. Joe was our neighbor as a kid, and he was a political science professor. My dad was an engineering professor, and they loved to talk about all sorts of things. We spent much of my childhood was learning, hearing Joe Haber talking this very deep voice of his, which was just melodic to listen to. I loved listening to him. And he would often bring information, articles or whatever. And one day he brought an article from the Jerusalem Post. And he brought it to the house, and he said, this is an interesting picture here. And what it was a picture of an orphanage in the Soviet Union, a group photograph of probably 150 kids. And the article was discussing how there were so few adults in these orphanages that you'd have these 15, 16-year-old kids who were taking care of much younger children. And there was my mom in the picture. She was the teacher, or if you will, the supervisor of all of these kids. And after that, she opened up a little bit more about what happened and about her friends and about growing up. So these pictures really kind of, for me, are something that's personal. And my mom and my father were quite involved in the Holocaust conference. And just one thing I want to share, and I think you probably remember this. This was about probably 12 or 13 years ago. Max and Zach, the twins, you were babies at the time. And thank you, Zach. And there was a speaker, and it was in Lawson, it was in Purdue, who was talking about the Ukraine, interestingly enough, and about Ukrainian Jews who had gone through the Holocaust and who didn't really view the Holocaust as the Holocaust. They viewed it as war. And it was just kind of an interesting dynamic of how they viewed things. And anyway, my mom stood up and she, as she would sometimes do, started giving, instead of a short question, turned into a longer statement. And I don't remember who it was, but someone said, Sonia, it's time to sit down. And she just looked and said, I will tell my story. and she continued, and she started giving it kind of a testimony about her experiences in the Ukraine during this time. And so that was a powerful moment. In the 80s, in the 1980s, I remember as a kid, there was a movie that was shown it was in either Loeb or Elliott. They showed a movie that a survivor had made. It was a fictionalized account of his life, and he was there, and he spoke at the time. He was not much older than I am now. But in any event, so for me, it's an honor to be on the committee today, to be the treasurer, and to see the interest that we have in this community, the different parts of the community that come together. The fact that we can have an exhibit like this, it's phenomenal. And it's really because of people like yourselves who can support us, so that we can bring these things to the community, so we can have the kind of speakers like we had today, Alana Bloom in Israel about her experiences, for her family's experiences in the Struma, and also just as interesting and important to know how she was someone who was a hidden Jew. She grew up as a Christian, and only later, well after the war, after the Holocaust was over, did she understand who she was, and then decided she had to go to Israel for reasons that it was actually hard for her even to articulate. There was this draw for her. She needed to be with her people, with the Jewish people. So again, I want to thank you all for coming. We're always in need of donations so we can have these phenomenal speakers. We're looking forward to getting more people next year. If you're interested in helping out on the board or other ways of volunteering, just let us know. And again, thank you so much, and please learn what you can from these exhibits. And we've got, I think we have a little bit of food left. And so if you want some of that, you're welcome as well. So thank you very much.